He didn't know that one ordinary choice, taking a shortcut through a quiet street, would turn into the moment that changed everything. He wasn't causing trouble. He wasn't breaking any rule. But someone saw his skin before they saw his humanity, and that was enough to put his life in danger. In those few seconds, fear, confusion, and disbelief collided, leaving him caught in a storm he never asked for. What happened next would reveal a truth far deeper than a single incident, a truth many still refuse to face. But if he had known what awaited him just moments later, he might have taken a different path. Yet now, there was no turning back. IT was supposed to be just another calm evening. Rohan had finished a long shift at the community center, where he spent most days helping kids with their schoolwork. He loved that place. The noise, the laughter, the small victories no one else noticed. Walking home was his peaceful moment, a routine he trusted. The same streets, the same quiet corners, the same familiar rhythm of life. Rohan wasn't the type to expect trouble. He kept to himself, worked hard, and tried to brighten the world in the little ways he could. But even when you do everything right, life can shift without warning. Earlier that day, he sensed a strange tension in the air, a conversation that went silent when he entered a room, a stare that lingered too long to feel normal. He shook it off. After all, he had learned to ignore small stings to get through his day. Rohan's steps echoed softly on the pavement as he turned down the narrow stretch leading toward his neighborhood. The air felt colder now, heavier somehow, but he kept walking. He had taken this route thousands of times. There was nothing to fear, he told himself. Yet the uneasy stillness clung to him like a shadow. Then he heard it, a car door shutting, sharp, intentional, too close to ignore. Rohan slowed for just a moment and glanced back. The same car he'd seen idling earlier was now pulled farther up the road. A man stood beside it, staring directly at him. No expression, no words, just a steady, unsettling gaze that made Rohan's breath catch for a second. He turned back around and kept walking, picking up his pace while forcing himself not to look afraid. But fear doesn't need permission to grow. Within seconds, he heard footsteps. Heavy, hurried, closing the distance far too quickly to be innocent. Rohan's heartbeat thudded in his chest. He tried to stay calm, tried to remind himself he'd done nothing wrong. But he could feel the tension tightening around him like an invisible rope. The footsteps stopped. A voice cut through the air, sharp, accusing, and cold. He didn't turn around. He couldn't. Something inside him whispered that the moment he did, everything would spiral beyond his control. So he kept walking, each step feeling heavier than the last. But the voice came again, louder this time, echoing down the empty street, filled with the kind of hostility he'd felt too many times before. The man stepped closer, his shadow swallowing the space between them until Rohan could feel the heat of his breath. The street around them remained painfully silent. No footsteps, no voices, no witnesses. Just the two of them in a moment that teetered on the edge of danger. Then it happened. The man reached out and grabbed Rohan's arm with force that sent a jolt of fear through his entire body. Rohan stumbled, barely catching himself. His instinct was to pull away, but he froze, because he knew that even a small, innocent movement could be twisted into something he never intended. The grip tightened, fingers digging into his skin as if claiming ownership rather than seeking answers. Rohan tried to speak, but the man's glare cut through him with a message he understood too well. Your voice doesn't matter. Your explanation means nothing. Your skin is the only story I see. The man shoved him against the wall, the impact forcing the air from Rohan's lungs. He gasped, struggling to breathe, his heart pounding so loudly he could hear it echoing in his ears. Panic surged through him, raw, overwhelming, suffocating. He wasn't just afraid of being hurt. He was afraid of becoming invisible. Another name whispered after the damage was done. He lifted his hands slowly, showing them in the open, hoping it would calm the situation. But instead, it only seemed to provoke more suspicion, as if his attempt to comply was somehow threatening. The man leaned in, his face inches away, his words sharp and poisonous, accusing Rohan of things he had never done, never even thought of. Each accusation felt like a stone piling onto his chest. Rohan's vision blurred for a moment, not from tears, but from the crushing realization that no matter how safely he lived, how hard he worked, or how kind he tried to be, Someone could still decide he was dangerous simply because of how he looked. The world felt painfully small in that instant. Trapped, cornered, helpless. And just when it seemed like the tension would break into something irreversible, another noise entered the scene, shifting everything in an instant. What happened next would determine whether this night ended in destruction or in a truth that could no longer be ignored, be wise some twist of fate. Rohan made a home that night, bruised in body but shaken in spirit. He sat quietly in his small apartment, staring at the walls that once felt safe. The fear, the humiliation, and the sharp sting of injustice clung to him like a shadow he couldn't shake. He replayed every second over and over, asking himself the same questions. Why me? What did I do wrong? The answers offered no comfort. Only a bitter reminder that, in a world still blinded by prejudice, sometimes being innocent is not enough. Rohan realized that the incident didn't just hurt him physically. It pierced deeper into his trust, his sense of belonging, and his belief in fairness. And yet, amid the fear and anger, a quiet determination began to grow. He knew this story wasn't his alone. So many others carried the weight of assumptions, the burden of being judged by something as arbitrary as skin color. The injustice he faced was part of a larger pattern, one that society too often ignored, excused, or dismissed. In the days that followed, Rohan started speaking out, sharing his experience with friends, colleagues, and the wider community. His story became a mirror for others, a call to confront the uncomfortable truths we live with every day. It reminded people that racism isn't always loud. It can be a quiet, crushing force that strips away dignity and humanity, one encounter at a time. The night that changed him also awakened him. It left him asking questions we all must face. How long will silence be the price of safety? How many more lives will endure fear simply for existing? And what will it take for the world to finally see, acknowledge, and act? Rohan's story ended that night, but the conversation had just begun. Because the real change doesn't come from fear. It comes from courage, awareness, and the refusal to let injustice go unnoticed. How many more stories like his are waiting to be told? And how long will we let them go unheard?